Okay, let's talk about something that's on a lot of people's minds, AI in our kids' education. It's this weird mix of excitement and, a little bit of anxiety. Parents are kind of caught in the middle. On one hand, AI is the future, right? But on the other, they're worried it might be making it a little too easy for their kids, hurting their ability to really think for themselves. So what happens when a short-term win for your kid feels like a long-term gamble? Well, let's get into it.
And this is really the heart of the matter. Is generative AI, this incredible super tutor, a tool that's going to revolutionize homework and writing and research? Or is it just a really, really sophisticated cheat code? A shortcut that basically robs students of the struggle they actually need to learn and grow.
And this kind of breaks that tension down perfectly. The promise? Hey, AI can boost your kids' grades, like right now, and get them ready for a future that's going to be full of tech. The peril, though? That exact same tool might be weakening crucial long-term skills, stuff like problem solving, and making them way too reliant on it. It's that classic dilemma, a quick gain today versus potential pain down the road.
So, to figure out how parents are really dealing with this, researchers did something pretty clever. They didn't just ask them what they thought. Nope. They set up an experiment to see what parents would actually do when they had to make this choice for their own children. So here's the basic setup. They talked to over 2,000 parents and used this really smart method to figure out how much they'd genuinely be willing to pay for a top-tier AI tool for their teenager. But here's the genius part. They gave parents different scenarios, changing how many of their kids' friends were supposedly using the tool. And then, for some parents, they shared information about the potential long-term risks. And this is where we get our first big clue. It turns out one of the most powerful forces in human decision-making was at play here, and it's something that affects us all, way beyond the classroom. So just think for a sec. What do you think was the #1 thing that made a parent open their wallet for an AI tool? Was it how much they believed in the tech, how much money they made, or was it something else entirely? Well, the answer had almost nothing to do with the tech itself. It was all about what everyone else was doing. Get this, when parents were told only about 20% of their teens' friends were using AI, they were willing to pay around $18. But when they heard that number was 80%, bam, the price they were willing to pay shot up to almost $30. I mean, that is a huge jump. We're talking more than a 60% increase in what parents were willing to shell out, all driven by a single feeling, the fear of their kid getting left behind. Social pressure is an incredibly powerful thing. Okay. But this is where the story takes a really fascinating turn. The researchers then decided to throw in a twist. They took a random group of these parents and told them about the potential downsides of AI. And the result? Well, it was completely counterintuitive.
So at first, the information did exactly what you'd think it would do. Before the warning, parents mostly saw AI as a net positive for their kids' skills. But after they were told a study found it could actually harm reasoning abilities, their opinion did a complete 180. They suddenly believed AI had a net negative impact.
Right. So here's the kicker. You'd assume that if you suddenly think a product is bad for your kid, you'd be less likely to buy it. Makes sense, right? Nope. Wrong. Look at this. Even though their beliefs about AI totally soured, their willingness to pay for that same tool for their own child barely budged. It was pretty much the exact same.
And that is the central mystery here. The information about the risks changed what parents thought, but it didn't change what they were willing to do. What on earth could explain that huge disconnect between what they believed and how they behaved?
This brings us to the big idea of the entire study, a theory that just perfectly explains this strange, almost irrational behavior. They call it the AI rat race. So, the AI rat race is basically a version of the prisoner's dilemma, but for parents. Individually, every single parent feels like they have to get the tool for their kid. Why? Because if they don't, and all the other parents do, their kid is the one who falls behind. But collectively, they might all secretly wish they could live in a world where nobody was using it. The fear of that short-term disadvantage is just so strong it overrides their long-term worries. And listen, you don't just have to take the researchers' word for it. This quote from an actual parent in the study just says it all. It's not about being in love with the technology. It's about not letting their child be the one left in the dust. This is so telling. It's like the escape hatch. While parents won't unilaterally pull their own kid out of the race, they are totally in favor of somebody else stopping the race for everyone. After they heard about the risks, a solid majority,
57% of parents said they would actually support a school-wide ban on AI. They're looking for a collective solution to what feels like a collective problem.
And just to be sure, the researchers ruled out a couple of other explanations. It's not what they call social learning. Parents aren't just following the crowd because they think the crowd knows best. Their actual opinion of the tech doesn't get better. And it's definitely not that they've stopped valuing things like critical thinking. They know those skills are absolutely vital. They just feel trapped by the immediate competitive heat.
Now let's zoom out, because this whole dynamic, it's not just happening in schools. The same logic of this rat race actually explains a lot about our broader relationship with technology and why it spreads so fast, whether we fully trust it or not.
Just look at this. The same fear falling behind that drives parents also drives giant companies to invest billions because they're terrified of losing market share. It drives entire countries to pour money into AI, scared of being left in the dust in the global innovation race. You see this logic everywhere, from feeling like you have to join the newest social media app to companies pushing out products before they're really ready. The stakes are different, sure, but the fundamental fear is exactly the same.
And that leaves us with this one really critical question. When we adopt new technology, less because we've carefully weighed its pros and cons, and more out of a collective fear of being left behind, who's actually in charge? Who gets to decide if the race is going too fast, and who is responsible for setting the rules of the road, or maybe even for hitting the pause button? It's something to think about, not just for our kids, but for all of us.